Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us here on the Infinite Prosperity Podcast. My name is Louisa and I help high achievers, entrepreneurs and coaches lift the lid on life and business so that they can live at their highest value. Each episode we will bring you our favourite founders, CEOs and guest experts to share with you their insights and strategies to expand your wealth consciousness, your spiritual leadership and aligned business strategies. We know that living in alignment with your soul's mission is what fulfills you, and we are here to show you how to achieve this in an energetically aligned way. If you haven't already, be sure to claim your free abundance activation in the Akashic Records. Go to louisahavers.com/gift to unlock your abundance activation today. And if you'd like my support in having aligned success in life and business, then contact me at www.louisahavers.com and let's explore together if it's an aligned match. Get ready to live at your highest value and to expand into your next level of money as you elevate and receive more. You create more for others. Righty ho, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to our episode this week. I am so excited for our conversation today. We are talking about launching successfully and getting your energy aligned so that your frequency is doing the heavy lifting for you. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about, and how to do this working with planetary energy. And we have the leading authority on this as our guest today, the one and only Samantha Selby. Welcome. I'm so excited. Thank you for coming back. We have had you on the show before, so I'm so excited that you have come back. And for those of you that perhaps missed the episode before and are new to Sam, let me give you an introduction to her. So Sam is known as the astrological energy healer and channel for star goddess activations. She is passionate about astrology and energy healing, supporting her clients to reveal and heal their feminine energy so that they can experience peace, prosperity with more fun, freedom, love and laughter in their life and business. And Sam's superpower is bringing the complicated and confusing concepts down to earth, making them simple and easy to understand so you truly can use the power of the planets to up-level your life. Sam, a huge welcome.
Oh, thank you, Louisa. Thank you for having me back. It's an absolute joy to be here with you today and to share all of the juiciness the planets with your listeners.
Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you for coming back. And for those of you that are getting to know you, so for our listeners who are getting to know you, let's start at the beginning. What made you start your own business so that they can kind of get up to speed to how you are where you are today?
Okay, so way back, 25 plus years ago, I had been working in the city in London, and I left school at 16, went straight into a job in the city, and then I had in quick succession 2 sons, and I went back I had a career break and then went back to work when they were really small, and it just didn't fit with my life at all. Leaving my 2 children at home and going to work 12-hour days. By the time I got home, it didn't fit. And I'd met a fabulous lady when I was doing some part-time work in a pub. And she was one of the wife of one of our regulars, and we started chatting, and she said, I do reflexology. I wonder if you'd be really good at this. And I was a bit okay, you don't really know me, just work behind the bar. And she said, I'll give you a treatment. And I had this treatment with her, and it blew me away. It was just incredible how she could tell so much about my health, my well-being, but also other things as well. And we got to know each other a lot deeper, and she said, go and train. So I did. I did a college course, and I qualified in reflexology. And then I was like, right, I'm not going back to corporate job. I'm not going to go back and work 12+ hour days, not seeing my children. So I started my own business initially with reflexology. And then over the years, I added to my kind of toolbox. I started to explore the psychology of the mind-body link, and I explored EFT tapping, and then EAM, the energy alignment method. And in those intervening years, I'd lost contact with this particular lady. And we lived a couple of villages apart, and then I randomly met up with her, just saw her in the street, and she said, "Oh, Sam, how are you doing?" So I said, "Oh, yeah, you know, I've set the business up. It'd been going for quite a few years by then." And she said, "Oh," she said, "I don't know if you're interested in this." She said, "I've started playing with astrology." I was like, "Oh, okay." She said, "Well, I want to start teaching it." She said, "Do you want to come round my house and learn?" I was like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, of course I can." So I went round her house lunchtime, a couple of lunchtimes a month, and met up with some other ladies. And literally, it became a coven. Her husband used to describe us as the coven. And she taught me all about astrology. And I loved it. It was fascinated me. It was incredible, you know, really, really, but it was just for me. It was just me having an interest in something. And in the intervening years, my business had grown. I'd had another daughter, and my work had expanded into supporting women, particularly with birth trauma. And I'd started to run red tent circles for birth workers, for midwives and doulas, because I felt they needed a safe place to be, because they spend all of their time supporting women. So I started red tent circles, which are spaces where women can come and be seen and be heard. And we used to do meditations and crystals and pull goddess cards and things. But I always timed them to the time of the new moon, because in a woman's cycle and the cycle of the seasons, the new moon is a time when feminine energy falls away. It is a time when we can feel we have less energy. So it was the perfect time for us to come together. And so I hosted these red tent circles live in person, and they were amazing. Rosie, my daughter at that time, was probably about 2 or 3, and she used to help me get it set up, get all the crystals out. It was she used to want to stay, and she used to get quite upset when we used to usher her out. And those red tent circles really set me up for this supportive space of using the moon, particularly as a cyclical, rhythmic energy in our lives. And over time, those red tent circles moved and morphed into something that are entirely different now. And this is where I started to bring the astrology into my work, because by studying the moon, I was able to understand a woman's cycles and her seasons and her energy ebb and flow. And then when we had the pandemic and everything shut down, nobody was able to meet up, I moved the red tent circles online, and they became moon circles. And so I was offering this online space for women to come and meet and to share their experiences, but also to be guided by the astrology of what was happening in the heavens. The new and the full moons have very different energy feel to them, and it was uncanny how people were experiencing this. And so I started to bring astrology more and more into my business. By this time, I was still working with women who had experienced trauma, but my work was expanding, and I was working with women who hadn't come to me for birth trauma particularly. It was because they were at a crossroads in their life, or things weren't working out how they wanted them to be, either with their work or their relationships. And over time, it just morphed, that the astrology just kind of came into my work, and I started to look at people's charts and then correlate what was happening in the planets with what they were experiencing. So it was kind of an evolution. It wasn't something that was planned, it just happened. And then when I looked at my chart to see, to focus on my energy, it became very clear what was happening in my life was mirrored by the planetary makeup in my chart. And that was like, oh, wow, I am meant to be doing this. And so now I kind of combine, I merge the magic of astrology with energy healing, because that became a really big key part of my work, knowing that we can change everything about our lives. We can change our internal thought processes, our energy signature, so that we can experience an entirely new reality. And one of the things that I really learned about astrology is it is not, it's a tool for us to know and learn more about ourselves. But actually, astrology is the energy of possibility. It is the energy of what if, not a worry what if. I was like, oh, what if? It's a what if? What if this? What if I felt like this? What if I felt like that? What if this changed? And that's what I love about astrology and energy work. It is the energy of possibility, and knowing that we can change absolutely everything within our lives. And that's what I love the most about the work that I do now, because it doesn't feel like work. It is so effortless and easy. It's just incredible. And it kind of happened by accident, which is just the best thing. It wasn't something I set out to do intentionally. It just worked out that way.
And I love what you mentioned there around when you looked at your own chart, you were like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this. And that's, of course, because you're in alignment with your signature, that it's feeling so effortless. Your naturalness in terms of effortless.
Yes.
That this all feels effortless because you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. It's in the stars. It's in your blueprint. One of the things, and I know we've had many conversations about this before, but I think it just would be really, our listeners would love to hear you speak to this, is like, what, knowing all of this, you've shared the impact that really understanding your own chart has had for you in your life and your business. So how can people use astrology to help them in their business and their lives across the piece, so from day-to-day tasks to the bigger things like projects and launches?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking that, Louisa. So absolutely. I suppose the way for me to explain this, to make it simple, is every planet in our solar system beams down an energy. Imagine it like a frequency. You might imagine it like a musical note, and it has its own intention for you. So, for example, Mercury is the planet of communication. Everyone knows what happens with Mercury retrograde. Update, back up everything because you might lose it. It's not true. Mercury retrograde is actually a really fabulous period of time, but so every planet has its own frequency and vibration. So Mercury, for example, is the planet of communication. So if we are wanting to communicate to anybody, we use our Mercury energy. If we want to feel the energy of love, we're using our Venus, our heart energy. So when you're communicating, when you are putting out your marketing, when you're posting on social media, you're using your Mercury energy. So it's a really powerful thing to understand how your Mercury energy actually works. So, for example, knowing the sign that your Mercury is in will really help for you to understand how your Mercury, how you communicate. So, for example, if you have Mercury in a water sign, your communication energy is going to be very water-based. It's going to be emotional-based. If you have Mercury in an air sign, such as Gemini, then your communication energy is going to be very fast. It's going to be very airy. It's very it's head-based. If you have Mercury in a fire sign, say for example like Leo, your communication energy can feel some intense sometimes because it's got a fire energy behind it. Mercury in a earth sign, for example, such as Taurus, there's a groundedness, there's a weightedness for your communication energy. So we also have to understand that there are all these different communication energies that everybody has. So when you are sending out your marketing, bear in mind that people with a Mercury in a water sign they're going to really latch on to the emotional pull. Somebody with a Mercury in a air sign, that's intellectual. So they're going to want the facts, the data, the numbers. Somebody with Mercury in an earth sign, it needs to be solid and grounded. They don't want the airy-fairy. Mercury in a fire sign, they want to feel that it's connecting to them. There has to be like a punchiness to it as well. So when you are using your Mercury energy, you communicate in a particular style, but everybody else's Mercury energy could be one of those 4 elements. So it's important to recognize that, and to include an emotional pull, some data and facts, something that's very grounded and down to earth, and a little bit of spiritual magic, because you will then encompass everybody's Mercury energy. So understanding that is a very simple way to use Mercury as a communication energy, just understanding yours. But a way that you can plan your life around the stars, the planets, and the planetary movements, we call them transits in astrology. Just think of them as moving. Is the very simplest way is by using the moon. Now, the moon moves sign every 2.5 days. So when she is in, say, for example, an earth sign, she's got a very grounded, stable energy about her. This is the time to do things that need you to be very steady. You've got to get on and do it. That's a moon in an earth sign. So earth signs are Taurus, and they are brain work. They are, yeah. So now you're judged. It's always the way. I have a block around Virgo and Libra energy. I always get them muddled up. It's very interesting. So Virgo is an earth sign, Capricorn as well. So when the moon is in those signs, it's really, you can actually track the moon, and then you can do you're really grounded. I need to be very centered and just kind of get this done when it's in an earth sign. If the moon is in a fire sign, that's a great time for spiritual connection. So if you need to do any kind of work that involves connecting on a spiritual level, but it's also a great time for sales. People buy under when the moon is in a fire sign. So that's a great time to put offers out there. And if the moon is in a water sign, then that's a great time for you to really connect with your clients. It'd be a great time to do one-to-ones because you get that real emotional connection. Air signs, when the moon's in an air sign, then that's a great time for you to do the real, I need to have my brain working. So in this way, it's thinking. So in this way, you can plan your day or plan your week so that you're doing tasks that fit with where the moon is, because we are all affected by the moon, all of us. The moon affects, we are 80% water, and the moon moves the water of this world. That's why we have the tides. There are police forces. So a really good friend of mine, when I first started working with the moon, she'd done a study with, I think it was Brighton Police Force, where they looked at the number of police officers they had actually on the beat on a Saturday night when it coincided with a full moon, and they started to plan the numbers that they had available and on duty if there was a full moon at the same time as a Saturday night, because it heightens energy. And this also it's reflected in midwives will tell you this as well. Their labour wards will be busier around the time of a full moon. Full moon's a birthing energy. That's a time to put offers out there, to birth new things at the time of a full moon. So midwives will, you're not necessarily more babies born, but they'll have more women thinking they might be going into labour. There'll be more instances around a full moon on a labour ward, and we see this in mental health as well. So that's why lunatic asylums were called lunatic asylums, because when the moon was full, there would be,
of course,
you know, and energetically and emotionally, things are being brought to the surface. So working with the moon is a very simple way to start with an exploration of, you know, using the planets, launching. So birth something at a full moon, start a project at a new moon. And this is what I've done with my most recent project, is to plan the whole thing around the moon and where the planets are in relation to my chart.
Oh, I love it. There's so much there. I'm sure everybody is like writing down notes, going, right, hang on, when am I meant to be launching? What am I offering when the moon is doing this? And I think everyone will resonate with what you're saying in terms of recognizing the impacts that the planets and the moons have on their energy field, because we know this on a level, even if it's something that people perhaps have been dabbling with. And of course, all our listeners are, you know, understand the energetics and if they're new to it, they're, you know, they're here because they're exploring it and wanting to learn more. So I know that this is going to really resonate with them. So people will be jotting down like, when am I doing my offers? Full moon, when the fire, you know, fire energy, and being able to plan new projects in the new moon. This is absolute gold, because this is really where it just makes it easier if you plan in alignment with the energies that are all around you, that are having an impact on you, rather than trying to kind of go out of sync with that. And so that you're kind of creating that push energy that so often people can feel like, what's going on with the planets, because I'm really feeling very wonky.
Yeah, and that's something that I hear a lot, people saying, oh, what's going on, Sam? What's happening? And if we think about it, as I said, each planet has a vibration and frequency, and it might, imagine it like a musical note or a color, or and as the planets move around in the heavens, and I know those of you that are listening on the podcast, I'm moving my hand now, but you can't see it. But it's, so the planets move around in the heavens, they travel across the sky, and they beam their light, their energy, their musical note down onto us. And dependent on your natal chart, your planetary placements, these beams of energy can activate, stimulate, trigger facets of your personality or your energy. And so a planetary movement could be the moon, it could be the sun, could be one of the other planets, Mercury, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn. They can beam this light, this energy down, and it activates a particular part of your energetic makeup. So, for example, if Mercury is beaming his light down, his energy of communication, and it's activating your heart energy, your Venus, you might find that you feel like you really want to communicate from your heart. Mercury is the planet of communication. Venus is the heart energy. So you've got an urge to say how you really feel. It can also help you to communicate with your clients in your business, because you are then going to, your communication will have an extra oomph to it because it's coming from your heart. We can also experience a triggering of our energetic stuff from planetary movements, particularly planets like Chiron, who is the wounded healer, can activate our energetic sensitivity. And so this can bring things up to the surface. So, for example, suddenly you might feel, you know, you've hit a plateau in your business, or you have a couple of weeks where your sales have just really dropped, and you start to feel, oh, you know, I'm not really worth this. Nobody really wants to pay this money, or you start to doubt your value and your worthiness, and that can feel really deeply uncomfortable. But when we look at your natal chart, we might be able to see that actually one of the planets in the heavens is activating, beaming its light down. So Chiron example, this could be, and it's activating a part of your psyche, a part of your natal chart, and it's bringing up the next layer of healing so that you can heal that part of you so you can move through that energetic stickiness and come out the other side. And, you know, you might feel it, you might not understand what it is, but when we look at the astrology of it, it gives us, it's like we don't have to search for the reason. The planets show us. So when I look at someone's chart, I can, very often it'll be, well, of course, that's why. And we look at the relationships, the other planets, and it can give us even more insight into the layers that are sitting underneath the pattern of behavior. So it might be that it's indicating a relationship with the moon in your chart. So that would indicate for me that there's something here going along with mother energy, with feminine archetypal energy. So this is perhaps about something that's connected to the relationship with your mother or your children or other feminine energy. And that then can give me the insight to direct the energy healing to where it's needed, so that I'm not you're not wandering around in the darkness. It's like, this is exactly why this is. And we can see this because it's literally laid out in your natal chart, and we can correlate the movement of the planets to what is actually held within your energy. And one of my clients this week, we were on a group call, and she's done a stack load of energy work and many years of self-development. And there was a number of things that she said, I've done work on this, and I can't seem to break through. And we looked at her chart, and she actually said, that's the missing link. She said, you've just connected the dots between the birth of her child and a generational pattern with her family around children being born out of wedlock. And it was literally sitting there in her chart. And she was like, that's the missing link. I can see it. And that's what I find so incredibly fascinating. It's an endless subject. You dive in and you don't come back out.
I love it so much, and I think it's really reassuring for people when you can see that makeup in your chart, rather than going down, as I call them, energetic rabbit holes of, you can just go down and keep going, kind of looking for a route of, and often people will come at it from a perspective that there's something wrong with them, which is not the place to starting. As a starting point, you're a pure divine being, as you're absolutely perfect as you are. And then to be able to look at your chart to be able to go, oh, that's why that's happened, and this is why this is triggered now. This is, something that I've done wrong, or I should have done X, Y, and Z by now. It's being able to work with that blueprint that, your signature energies you always talk about, which I think is so expansive for people to be able to have that insight, to really understand what's going on, or why something that perhaps worked 1 month or has been working continuously suddenly does something bizarre. I know earlier this month, talking with other colleagues, talking about solar flares impacting their sales, where they've been rinsing and repeating the same masterclasses for the whole year, always sell something, and then these big solar flares meant that particular one, they had no sales, and it's being able to understand what's going on in a planetary perspective really helps you to know what you should be focusing on, what the priority area is, that's what I love about the work that you do.
Oh, absolutely. And that's when you can really start to use the planets. So say, for example, I've got Mars at the moment transiting over the top of my 10th house in Gemini. And so this gives me an energy of being able to take action in my business, because it's the 10th house, but in a way that is Gemini. So it's an energy around communication. So that I can focus, I can look at my year, my client's year, and say, right, this is the best time to do this. Don't launch that then, launch this now, because of where the planets are over over your chart, over your energy. And this is when you start to use the planets to your advantage. And I also find what's, again, really fascinating and incredibly empowering is you can look at someone's chart and you can see that there is perhaps a wealth imprint. It says, well, you've got perhaps Jupiter, which is an expansive planet, in the second house, which is a money house, and it is conjunct Venus. So you would look at that and you would say, wow, Jupiter in the second house, expansive, money, expansive. Venus, well, Venus is your heart energy. It's how you relate to others, but it's also how you receive. Well, that should tell us that this person will have no issues with money whatsoever. However, this person sits there and they said, well, that's not true. I have, I really struggle with money. I struggle with, with money, and it was okay up until, we had money as children, and then in my teens, it just, the family lost all their money, and I've never been able to get that back. And when I look at someone's chart and I can see this, and they're telling me, but I haven't got money. This isn't what's happening. That's when we look at what was happening in the planets at that time and what was happened in their life, because the energetics of lack, when their family lost all their money when they were a child in their teens, would have coincided with what in astrology we call the Jupiter return. So Jupiter returned to the place in their chart where it was when they were born, but at that same time they experienced a loss. Their family lost all their money, so it created a belief around the fact that they couldn't hold on to things, an imprint or a signature of lack. And so because it happened at that pivotal time in their life, and Jupiter is the planet of beliefs, it created this belief that they didn't deserve money. So they would get it, they would attract it. Jupiter conjunct Venus says you will expand your attraction, but they couldn't hold on to it. And so we can then use the energy techniques to reprogram their neurological pathways, but also release the resistance within their energy that's connected to that belief. And then we can undo that programming, so that energy signature in their chart is then kind of activated in its true form, without the filter of a belief system that was created because of something that happened in their life. And when you kind of piece all this together, you can then really bring out the juiciness in someone's chart. You can bring out the energy of possibility, which is what astrology is all about. And it's, as you know, I can talk about this forever. There is so much to share, but it's for me in my life and my clients' lives, it just opens things up. It's kind of like the secret weapon. It just gives you this, gives me a real sense of anything is possible, and there is so much kind of on my side. I'm not in this on my own. There is starlight. I mean, who wouldn't love to be bathed in starlight? But there is starlight that is supporting me to be the best version of me that I possibly can. And knowing that I am the same stuff as the stars, I am starlight, and there is starlight being beamed down to me, around me, within me, that is activating the most incredible energy within me and my clients and everybody on this planet. It's like, how can we not get excited and feel the joy and the openness of the energy of the stars and the planets? It's kind of like, how can you not? I need to teach this.
It's so magical, isn't it, when you really start to tap into it and understand. Like you say, it's a huge subject to be able to get your head around, and that's why people need to work with someone like you, because so that they don't have to go off and do a degree in astrology to understand what's going on. You can tailor it for them to be able to go, right, this is what you need to know, and you can help them to change the energetic vibration that where things have gone wonky and sticky. I'm sure this question I want to ask you is going to be in everybody's head. So okay, what do I do if I know I've got to do something, but I'm waking up and I'm not feeling it. I don't know what's going on in the stars and the moons, but what do I do?
Brilliant question. And you know, and this is the thing, sometimes, you know, the planets, the moon might be in a you know, in a particular sign or a particular house over your chart, but you've still got to do that thing. You know, you can't say to you know, that for that job interview or something, actually, can you put it on 2 weeks time, because then the moon's going to be in a different place. Yeah. Well, you could, but and also, you know, you sometimes you wake up in the morning, because literally, you know, you're like, I'm not really feeling it. My energy's dropped. I'm feeling really kind of a bit flat, a bit low, but I know I've got these client calls or whatever's happening in your life. So this is something I share with all my clients, and it's something that I do for myself as well. So before I go to bed at night, I write down exactly how I felt about my day. So whatever I felt, whatever I've thought, I write it down. I've got a little book and I write it all down, and I get it. I'm getting it out of my system. I get it out of my head, my Mercury energy, get it out of my heart, and I'm writing it all down. So it's a little bit like energetic housekeeping. Put it all out on this piece of paper, and then I set the intention that I'm releasing this. I'm letting this go. So I use a technique, EAM, the energy alignment method, and I will just say some phrases. I'm ready to release this, and I literally list everything I've written on this piece of paper. And I repeat that 3 times. I release this from my energy in all forms, on all levels, and at all points in time. And then I close my book and I go to sleep. So I do that before I go to bed every night. Now, some days I wake up in the morning, if it's been a full moon and I've had my sleep disturbed, then that can be why I wake up in the morning feeling a little bit sluggish. So what I do is I created an uplifting audio specifically for this, because there are some times in the morning you do wake up, even though you've done your release the night before, you've let go of the day before. You wake up in the morning and it's like, I'm just not feeling it. So I created this audio that I actually listened to myself. Right, Mum, can you put the thing on? And I created this audio to align my energy and my client's energy to having a fabulous day. So it is an audio. It's not a meditation. It's not a you know, lay there and relax. It's put it on and go about your morning. So 10 minutes. And it's just an affirmation after affirmation after affirmation, saying how fabulous you are, how juicy your energy is, how creative you are, that you can do whatever you set your mind to do. And it lasts for about 10 minutes, and you just pop it on whilst you're brushing your teeth, making the breakfast, whatever you're doing. And it changes your energy. It changes how you are feeling, thinking, moving, because when we change our thought processes, when we say how we want to feel, magic happens. So this is the little ritual that I share with all my clients. Release the day that you've had before you go to sleep the night before, and in the morning, align your energy to how you want to feel. And this was absolutely demonstrated to me yesterday. I was at a exercise class, it was a boot camp. And I was doing these, they were like really horrible lunges. They were power lunges, and they hurt. And I had to do like 30 of them. Then I had to do another exercise, then another 30. And I was moaning. Oh my God, I was swearing and moaning and how I hate them. And, you know, I hate these lunges. They're awful. Oh my God. And I was really, 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 really moaning about it. And then I stopped and I thought, do you know what, Sam? You're feeling rubbish about this. You're feeling, you know, you're saying out loud that you hate these exercises. You're whinging, moaning, making lots of grunty noises. and I thought, do you know what? This is, you need to change the energy around this. So the next time I had to do these 30 of these evil things, I said out loud, I love my body. I love these lunges. I love what they're doing to my bum. I love the fact that doing these exercises is going to help my body. It was easy. I still had to do the same amount. This feels so different because I changed the narrative. And yes, people were laughing at me like, what is she doing? But I changed the narrative. And that's what my little audio does in the morning. It changes your narrative. So even if you wake up feeling sluggish and rubbish, and if you're not so great, then you're changing your narrative. You're listening to something that is telling you something entirely different, and you start to feel different. So that's part of my my kind of energy cleansing and alignment. That's part of my daily life.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I know you mentioned you have a free gift for everybody who's listening.
Yeah.
Is this the free gift?
It is, yeah. So so if you would like proper instructions, written instructions, and that audio, then absolutely. So you can find all my details in your show notes, and I'm more than happy to ping it over to you. It makes such a difference. And my clients who say, they pop it on in their car and their kids listen to it, excuse me, on their way to school, and it sets their kids up for a good day as well. So
that's huge. Thank you so much. That's such a generous gift, because you're absolutely right in the sense of how you approach, and your intention for the day is going to set you up for the day, and then ultimately what you expect back to you and track back to you. So that's a really, really generous gift. Where can people find you? We'll put the gift link in the show notes so people can download that and get into your world. Where else can people come and find you, Sam?
Okay, so Facebook, because I'm an old lady. So I don't do Instagram. Well, that's my VA does Instagram. I don't do it. So Facebook is the best place to find me, because, as I said, I'm an old lady. So I have a free Facebook group as well, the astrological. There's my brother. See, I'm also an old lady. I'm also an old lady whose brain stops sometimes. Slightly menopausal. It's astrological energy healing for your life and business. So inside that Facebook group, I go live every week to talk about what's happening with the planets, and we host free masterclasses and things like that in there. So you can find me there, and I have a website, samanthaselby.com, that also has some bits and pieces in there as well. But Facebook's the best place, as I said, because I'm an old lady.
And I know that you are, just to give you an opportunity to talk about your podcast that you are launching soon, because I think that would be of huge interest to everybody, if you just want to mention that before we wrap up.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. So my podcast is literally launching imminently, all timed, with the planets in mind. And my podcast is called Stars, Goddesses, and What's for Tea. And so that's and I'm so excited. It's just going to be lots of chatting, which is just amazing.
So I encourage everybody, once you get into Sam's world, when you download your free gift and go and find her on Facebook and her Facebook group, then I'm sure they'll be able to come and find your podcast with ease. And it's just such a great name. Sam, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing all your wisdom. And there's so many nuggets there for people to be able to start to make real changes, and to be able to really think about how their energy is being impacted by the planets, whether they have thought about it before, or perhaps they're sort of starting to dip their toe in. I highly recommend going and checking out Sam's world, because you're very generous with what you share in your Facebook group and lives and things. So I know that people will be supported hugely by you there. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode.
Oh, thank you for having me, Louisa. It's been great as always. I'm always loving to chat with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. And we would love to hear your thoughts and insights. You can join us in the Money Kinesiology for 6- and 7-figure CEOs, which is on Facebook. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this podcast. So do share your thoughts there. And until our next episode, sending you all loads and loads of love, and we'll see you then. Take care. Thanks for listening to the Infinite Prosperity Podcast. And if you like what you've heard and want to know more, please go to louisahavers.com. We just appreciate you so much. So thank you for listening and hanging out with us. If there's anything that we can do for you, you can email us at louisa@louisahavers.com. Let my team know if you have any ideas for shows that you'd love to hear, or topics you want me to talk about. Really looking forward to hearing from you. All right, that is it for this week, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for today. Looking forward to connecting with you again. Until next time, namaste.